Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we're talking Week 14, the end of the fantasy regular season. Hopefully you've made your playoffs. Hopefully it was a good year for you. But if not, we're going to start talking about 2023 for you next week. Or this coming week. So if you're out, hey, we have you covered. We'll start talking about next year already. Let's forget this year. But we got one last time to go over the recap here. So let's do it. Bills Jets is the first one. Bills win 20-12. My box scores don't want to load today. Again, another relatively low scoring game here. Bills. I mean, Josh Allen not putting up monster numbers, only 147 and a touchdown. But again, he runs for a touchdown. That's 47 yards on the ground. And that's why he does really well for you. So he's able to do something there. Through the air, Dawson Knox catches a touchdown. Diggs didn't do much for you. If you were counting on Diggs as your top receiver to get you into a playoff, and he goes 3 for 37. Gabe Davis 3 for 31. It's not a lot of offense there for Buffalo. But hey. No. They're winning, so they don't really care, I guess.
Yeah, 10-3, and then hey, the Jets have been better than we originally thought they were going to be. You know what I mean? Their defense can obviously stand up, but not quite enough offense as we jump over to them. Mike White, 27 for 44, 268 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Obviously, that's not going to get it done, but at the same time, good enough against a Buffalo team, but you got to throw some touchdowns. Zonovan Knight, 17 carries, 71 yards and a touchdown. So if you did play him, surprisingly, another good game for him. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And then Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore are really the two wide receivers that stood out. No touchdowns here, but both had 6 catches. Garrett Wilson for 78 yards and Elijah Moore for 60. So Garrett Wilson, once again, doesn't hurt you if you played him. So he's one of those guys that you're going to be looking for next year to make a huge jump.
He's at a good stretch. So let's go back to week 8. I'm just going to go over his numbers here. Starting in week 8, he had 6 for 115 off 7 targets. Then he goes 8 for 92. Okay. Bye week, comes back against New England, only 2 for 12. So that was a down week. But then he goes 5 for 90. And that was the Zach Wilson, I believe. That was probably his last game, if I'm guessing right. Then he comes back 5 for 95, 2 touchdowns, 8 for 162, 6 for 78. It's been a solid stretch for him. It really has. So see if that continues into next year. Definitely much better. Bengals Browns. Bengals win 23 to I lost my 23-10. Not as much offense this week for the Bengals. Burrow throws 2 touchdowns though, so that's solid. 1 to Jamar Chase, 1 to Trenton Irwin. No one got involved in the passing game except Jamar Chase in this one. 10 for 119 for Chase. No one else had more than 2 catches. So that was it. And, yeah.
The targets alone, it told the story. It was insane, actually, because, he had 15 targets, which is already huge. And then the next guy down would be Piran with 5. He only caught 1. And then Trent Taylor, who had 4 targets, only caught 1 again. Everyone else had 2 or 1. So, I mean, it just shows, like, unless he was trying to dump it off a few times, he was just going to Chase over and over and over again. When that wasn't happening, Joe Mixon, he had 14 carries for 96 yards. But P. Ryan was the one that got the touchdown.
He did. When he got the touchdown, but
the question of, how do you feel about those? We didn't know how they were going to play. And this kind of did, Mixon's numbers and P. Ryan's, you saved them both. Neither of them made you happy. Neither of them made you too sad. But this is the worry, right? And what were you going to say about P. Ryan's touchdown?
So it's not many touches, but if he's going to steal goal line, that's still not good for Mixon owners.
No, and he only had 4 touches. I mean, he was able to get in the end zone, but that could have easily, turned into something else. So
and then for the Browns, Watson throws for 276, a touchdown and a pick. Touchdown went to Njoku. Donovan Peoples-Jones had a good 8 for 114 game. Amari Cooper only 2 for 42. Nick Chubb 14 for 34. So he's again, if you're relying on him to get to the playoffs here, you hate that this is the performance he had in week 14, but hopefully he turns it around if you're already in. He's had a really good year, so hopefully you are set in the playoffs if you have Chubb. How about Cowboys Texans? This one was closer than expected. It's a 27-23 Cowboys win. Prescott throws 284, a touchdown, but 2 picks. Not a great day for him. His 1 touchdown throw Went to Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard also ran one in, but Zeke is starting to take over more of that rushing load. 15 for 62 and a touchdown for Zeke. Pollard 10 for 42 in that touchdown. 4 for 20 through the air for Pollard as well. And Schultz 6 for 87 led the way. CeeDee Lamb only 5 for 33, but it's definitely a split there between Zeke and Pollard. Definitely a split.
And that is the worry, right? Zeke is a very good player, and we love Pollard in this podcast. We always have. But I do think as long as you continue to see both be productive, and right now both are getting double-digit carries, 10 and 15, but that number is going to change depending on who's healthy, who has a hot hand. Right now you're running with them, right? Because we're playoff time. How, like, if you had both of these guys, if they were handcuffing each other, are you just playing both of them? Or if you had to play only one, say you only had one slot left, who do you actually trust more right now?
It's probably Pollard. It feels like I think he's going to get more opportunities in the passing game too. It's probably Pollard, but I don't think I mind putting both of them in and just seeing what happens, right? They're using them both.
Right.
So I'd be okay with that. For the Houston side, Mills throws for 175, no touchdowns, a pick. Driscoll throws a touchdown. They used 2 QBs in an odd way in this one. Driscoll ran the ball 7 times as well. So it was a little different there. Dameon Pierce, 22 carries, 78 yards and a touchdown. And the one touchdown went to Amari Rogers, who is now a Texan, 4 for 57. And Chris Moore, 10 for 124.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming out of nowhere. But and Dameon Pierce, 22 for 78 and a touchdown. I don't know if you already said that, but another one, you know what I mean? Like, it's a tough one because these are the kind of performances we love to see. But I don't know if you played him against Dallas or not, and I wouldn't have blamed you because it is so up and down right now that who would have guessed that this game was going to be close enough to keep giving him
wouldn't have expected it.
Yeah, enough rushes. So you get over 20, you're going to have a good day, but you never know when that's going to come nowadays.
How about the next one? Lions, Vikings. Lions win 34-23, 5-1 in their last 6.
We're gonna make the playoffs.
Got a good team right now. I don't know. I like it.
LA's draft pick because we're screwing ourselves over.
I like it. This team is playing well. They have a shot at the playoffs. They really do, and they'd be a tough team. I don't think anybody wants to see them in the first round, to be 100% honest with the way they've been playing lately. So 4 more games. Hopefully they can keep it up. Goff 330, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And those people that are mock drafting a quarterback to the Lions with that Rams pick, just give us a defensive player.
Yeah,
Lions aren't drafting a QB there.
No, and thank God they won't. And I'm so happy that they finally got smart.
Yeah, they're not doing it. They're just not doing it. Why?
Nope. Same reason they traded Hawkinson. They're actually starting to play like a halfway decent team. You can't spend a ton of money on players that are not going to be the difference. And I know you would say QBs are. You're absolutely right, but too hard to pick, and we see it year after year. Mm-hmm. The Jets, should they have taken Zach Wilson? We don't know. Should have, you can go down the list.
And then it's early, I know, in Cleveland, but Deshaun Watson hasn't looked great in 2 games, and Russell Wilson hasn't been good. Like
2 games.
Hey, I don't know. I mean, you see these people go big for these quarterbacks, and they don't always play out either.
You're absolutely right on the Russell Wilson front, though, because we haven't seen anything of Deshaun, but Russell Wilson has looked awful all year, and that, the amount of money you're giving him.
Yep, for sure. So on the ground game for the Lions, the leading rusher was actually CJ Moore, and that was on a fake punt. So 42 yards off the fake punt. Jamal Williams, 16 for 37. DeAndre Swift, only 6 carries for 21. Justin Jackson gets the touchdown on the ground. And then they just spread the ball around to a lot of people. DJ Chark, 6 for 94 and a touchdown. St. Brown, 6 for 68. Josh Reynolds was 5 for 51 and a touchdown. Jamison Williams gets his first catch. 41-yard touchdown.
That's right. He's going to be a star. He's going to be a star.
And then Penei Sewell catches 1 for 9 yards on 3rd down. The Lions go to the tackle. Like, what are you doing? It was awesome, man. I love it. They get the win.
And this one cracks me up too, because you would think that it would actually be the opposite, where you have Amon-Ra St. Brown doing the heavy lifting, or maybe like Jamal Williams or Swift. Like, we'd have a couple of big names, but no, we passed it around. We did everything right. And when I say Detroit did everything right, and you're kind of like, great, what is Vikings going to do? And literally they could not get anyone going, but possibly the best wide receiver in the league right now, who had 11 catches for 223 yards, which is freaking ridiculous. Justin Jefferson went off. And it was impressive. And it's even more impressive he wasn't able to get in the end zone. But my God, no one can cover that guy. Hawkinson also had 6 catches for 77, and Thielen had 65 yards and the touchdown. KJ Osborne also had a touchdown, 38 yards. So, they were definitely lesser, but they could not run the ball worth anything, even though Delvin Cook did get a touchdown, probably saving his week, but only 23 yards on 15 carries. So it was a very different story from the Vikings, who were 10-2 going into this, where, I think everyone thought they were going to kind of trounce them. Besides for Justin Jefferson, it was a hard skiing for everyone.
Yep. Yeah. Cousins throws for 425 and they only scored 23 points. It's kind of, just didn't happen. How about this next one? Jaguars, Titans. Jaguars, who the Lions just trounced last week, win 36-22 over the Titans. Titans are reeling a little bit. Lawrence throws for 368 and 3 touchdowns. Really solid day there. He also ran one in for a touchdown. So 4 total touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence. He threw 2 to Evan Ingram, who had a monster day, 11 for 162. Zay Jones, 8 for 77 and a touchdown. Travis Etienne has he was great for a while, and now he's been struggling a bit. Only 32 yards in this one, no catches. So his last 4 games for Travis Etienne, 11 carries for 45 yards, 2 carries for 3 yards, 13 for 54, and 17 for 32. No touchdowns to be found in any of those games. So it's been a struggle lately for him. He looked really good for a while, so it's not great to see. For the Titans, it's Tannehill with 254 and 2 touchdowns. He threw them to Conway or something or other. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the dude's name. And then Westbrook Akina. Derrick Henry runs for 121 and a touchdown. But Titans, they lose. They drop to 7-6 now. So
I don't know if it was just this week, but it does feel like some of these teams that have been struggling early on are kind of getting their feet under him. And once again, it could be injuries and bye weeks and all of this stuff kind of playing into it. But we saw Jacksonville starting to play a little better. Really, Trevor Lawrence starting to play better, and then everything looks better. Detroit is looking better. Even Houston almost putting a scare into Dallas. There are some really interesting ones, and you're kind of seeing these other teams are falling off. Like Tennessee has been up and down all year, but once again, even Buffalo doesn't look unbeatable. It is going to be very, very interesting. NFL only, obviously, we only have a couple of weeks left in fantasy season, but what is about to happen or transpire in the rest of the NFL, I think it might all of a sudden kind of kick in and be a little more engaging, a little more fun, like because as so many teams are around 500, everyone is kind of up for the playoffs. So really interesting for next year in fantasy to see who steps up and who's actually going to be in it. And we talked about it too, like ETN is a great example of someone who we think has all the ability in the world. If Trevor Lawrence starts playing better, how does that affect him? And we will probably rank him accordingly to say, hey, we think Trevor Lawrence is going to take a step up every time that he played a good game. ETN's numbers were down 50% or whatever it might be. So this is actually getting quite interesting for what fantasy will be next year.
It is. And start talking about that stuff here soon. Get some good stuff going out for you. How about Eagles? Giants. Eagles roll 48-22. They go to 12-1. Hurts throws for 217, 2 touchdowns, runs for 77 yards and touchdowns, having a monster year. He threw the touchdowns A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, so no surprise there. On the ground, Miles Sanders was really good, 17 for 144 and 2 touchdowns. And he came into this game as the 10th best running back in the NFL in fantasy. This is only going to boost him even further. So if you picked up Miles Sanders, there's been some down weeks, but for the most part, he was like your third running back, and you've been able to use him the whole time. So it worked out pretty well for you. For the Giants, Daniel Jones throws for 169 and a touchdown. Tyrod Taylor threw for a touchdown, was 5 for 5. Tyrod Taylor comes in and actually led the team in rushing with 40 yards. So that shows what their day was like. Saquon 9 for 28. He caught 2 for 20. Richie James was 7 for 61 with a touchdown catch, and Hodgins caught one as well. Just not a good day for the Giants. The Giants are going to be a team I think could fall out of this, this playoff run. That's just what I'm thinking here.
We've been kind of waiting for it. And it's interesting with Tyrod too, because you start wondering because you need Saquon to be the focal point when they're winning. And you start wondering if they're going to just completely, they're freaking out now that they're losing. I wonder if Tyrod will actually get a shot.
We'll see. Be interesting. Be interesting for him to actually come in finally and take over for somebody else. He's never got an actual opportunity.
It's always been the opposite way. Yeah.
All right. So Ravens, Steelers. Ravens win 16-14. They're 9-4, but they have not been winning games by a lot here. It's been close wins for them, but they pull it off with Tyler Huntley in this one. Huntley throws for 88 yards before leaving with a concussion. Anthony Brown comes in at QB and throws for 16 yards. But J.K. Dobbins comes back from injury, 15 carries, 1hundred20 yards, and a touchdown.
God, I love that, man. I wish he would just stay healthy. Like, it's to the point where I'm like, please don't overrun him.
That's the problem. Like, when we talk about like next year, he's gonna be a tough one for me. He really is. I like the talent, but do I trust it?
Yeah, and that you will have to pay the proper price if he's healthy, like the healthy price for him. No one's going to get a discount because everyone sees every time he's healthy, everyone knows he would be a top 10 back if he played every game.
Yeah. And we'll see. That's going to be the interesting part with him next year. So for Pittsburgh, Pickett left this one with an injury. Trubisky comes in, throws for 276, a touchdown and 3 picks. And that's why he's Mitch Trubisky. He threw the touchdown to Pat Freiermuth. Najee runs 12 times for 33 yards and a touchdown. This Steelers offense is pretty poor, though. So
Trubisky, another reason you don't take a quarterback.
Yep. How about Chiefs Broncos? Broncos actually made this thing closer than the Chiefs probably would have liked. Mahomes throws for 352, 3 touchdowns, but 3 picks as well. His touchdowns went to Jerick McKinnon, 2 of them, and then Juju Smith-Schuster caught 1. McKinnon had 7 catches for 112 yards. Pacheco led the ground game with 13 for 70. So, and Travis Kelce was 4 for 71. But the 3 picks kind of kept the Broncos in this one, I would say. But he's not going to be able to get away with that, when they get into the playoffs. You can do this against the Broncos and win. You can't do that against good teams. Broncos are just not that good team. Russell Wilson throws for 247, 3 touchdowns, though, and a pick. 3 touchdowns went to Jerry Jeudy in this game. 1 went to Marlon Mack. Brett Rippon came in after Wilson got himself concussed and threw a touchdown. Wilson led the team with 57 yards on the ground. The play he got concussed on, he actually was scrambling, and it was nice to see. It was like old Russell Wilson for a minute. This was a better game for him in reality.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the fact that he had multiple touchdowns alone. I hate to say that for a guy that has had a really good career and probably has the opportunity to have a very good career going forward, but it was rough. And that's the rough part. Like, you're watching this and you're like, okay, maybe he's kind of turning the ship around, and then he gets, concussion, and you're kind of like, okay, well, maybe not.
Yeah. 49ers Bucks. 49ers win 35-7 behind Brock Purdy. They're just a good team. And it's actually kind of crazy that this team, they're good, right? They're a good team who doesn't need to worry the quarterback position. They could put a solid quarterback in there and be good. And they yet traded 3 first-round picks to get Trey Lance last year. It almost feels like out of character when you really think about it. But they're playing well. And Purdy's solid in this one. 16 for 21, 185, 2 touchdowns. If you're getting that out of your third-string quarterback, that's great. Touchdowns through the air, he threw them to I lost it. I think it was Ayuk and McCaffrey.
Yep. Correct.
I believe. McCaffrey also ran the ball 14 times for 119 and a touchdown. So he had 162 total yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that.
That trade is working out for him.
Yeah.
So they're a really solid team. And if they actually did, Craig is absolutely correct when you're talking about like the production they're able to get out of quarterbacks they didn't think were going to be their starters. I mean, they have so much talent too. If one of these guys does catch fire or get a little confidence behind him, not only can they do that with Christian McCaffrey and Debo running the ball now, because he also had 4 carries for 21 yards and a touchdown. But man, I mean, Ayuk and Debo and Kittle, I mean, there'd be a lot of wrinkles you could throw into here. And Tampa Bay hasn't been that great, but with a backup quarterback, it should not be 7-35. So San Fran is really showing something.
So, bad news though for Debo owners is it looks like he has a high ankle sprain. I just pulled it up. It looks like they do think it's going to be a high ankle sprain. So originally they thought he might have avoided serious injury, but high ankle sprains, pretty serious. I mean, especially for fantasy purposes, that might as well just knock him out of the fantasy season at this point, probably. So that'll be interesting. how that plays out.
It's a bummer. I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I thought I was still under the impression that it wasn't going to be
Nope. He
season ending for him.
Well, that it pretty much he probably could be back for the playoffs and help the team out, but that's not going to help your fantasy year. So for the Bucs, man, they're just not great. Brady 253 touchdown, 2 picks. He threw the touchdown to Russell Gage. Rashad White was 13 carries for 56 yards. Fournette 4 for 13. Yeah, Bucs aren't that good, but they still might win that division. So
yeah, I just want them. And honestly, I would love to see them in the playoffs just for in case anything happens to Brady. You get that last hurrah.
See what happens. How about Panthers beat the Seahawks 30-24. Thank you, Panthers. The Lions needed that one. So we're just cheering against the Seahawks, the Commanders, and the Giants now. Sam Darnold gets a start, throws for 120 yards and a touchdown. His touchdown went to Shi Smith. Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman both ran for 74 yards. Hubbard had a touchdown, though. And so did Raheem Blackshear. He got a touchdown on the ground. Laviska Shenault led the Carolina Panthers with 4 for 31 through the air. Seahawks, Geno throws for 264, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. He threw one to Goodwin, one to Metcalf, one to Lockett. And on the ground, there was no Kenneth Walker. There's no DJ Dallas. It went to Travis Homer, who has 9 for 26. Ugly. That's an ugly game. There's too many points for that game to even be that ugly, to be honest with you. I don't know. It didn't seem like a great fantasy day, but there we go. That's it. That is it, Jeff. That's the end of the fantasy football regular season. It's been an interesting one. I feel like offenses are down throughout the year this year. See how that changes. See if the NFL makes any rule changes to, get some more scoring out there.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too, and I'm sure we'll have more of a recap episode. But after watching this one, because it was kind of an odd year, would you draft does this change your mind for next year of how you draft positionally or anything of that nature? Does it shrink the tiers that you created?
So if anything, it felt like, I guess maybe it felt like receivers, like the top receivers were more reliable to me this year than any other position. Running backs just weren't like that reliable in my mind. I didn't see it. Some of them were fine, but like Derrick Henry's had some good weeks, right? Jonathan Taylor's had some good weeks, but Eckler's had good weeks. They've all had good weeks, but they're not consistent. The wide receivers have maybe been more consistent, but even that's not fully. Like Diggs did nothing this week, right? But it's tough. It's tough. I'm not looking into next year right now with like those sure thing players like that we thought we would have had. We thought, this year you would have thought Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp would have been those sure thing players, right? Look how that played out, and Kupp gets hurt. I don't see those players for next year right now. I don't see it. I don't even know. I'm trying to think of we'll do running back rankings later this week. I don't know how they're going to go right now. I have to really sit down and look at that. I have no clue.
I agree. It's been a very strange year. And then look, the people you think you could count on there's so many injuries as well. I mean, you can put that into perspective, but you do try to draft to not put yourself in that precarious position, right? But the guys that we thought would be easy. I mean, even Jamar Chase was hurt for a long stretch of time. Kupp was out. Even someone like Diggs and Debo didn't live up to really the hype. Diggs actually did. I mean, he did pretty well. I shouldn't throw him in that same category, but it was really all over the place. And tight end was a complete shit show.
Oh, it's terrible.
So, I mean, no matter what, even QB, the top tier shrank considerably. You couldn't really rely on anyone besides maybe the top 3. Yeah, so it really did just the entire thing. Anyone could be in the playoffs right now. And that made it exciting, but also extremely difficult to try to figure out how to build a team.
You never know when somebody's going to have a bad week. Like this game's still going, so we're not going to talk about it. Just started in the second half. But Tua is 3 for 15 for 25 yards in the first half tonight. Like he's like one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. Like 3 for 15 in 25 yards. Like what's happening?
And what happened to Herbert this year too? I mean, I think that's we could almost make a whole episode about that.
Yeah. That's
a 500 LA Chargers who were on fire offensively last year has all the pieces back. I know Mike Williams was hurt a little bit. Keenan Allen was hurt a little bit, but that's nothing new. Like this should not have gone off the rails nearly as much. And they're still able to make the playoffs, but Herbert everyone thought he was going to be a star. They put him number 3 And some people were saying, hey, he was the next one up, so put him after Josh Allen. I mean, it kind of crazy when you look back at what people were saying.
Yeah, it just didn't all work out. I would say that's for sure. But all right, there we go.
Did not all work out.
But all right, that'll do it for this one. Talk to you guys next time.